Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today we have a poetry author on our channel today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Please introduce yourself and tell us about yourself.
My name is Winde Washington Nnochirionye. I am the mother of a 15-year-old who is also a writer. I'm originally from South Carolina, um, born and bred in Pontiac, Michigan, but we've moved around so much. My roots are from South Carolina, which is where my mother lives, Rock Hill, South Carolina. And so South Carolina has always been home, though right now I am a resident of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Now tell us about your book.
My book is called Clouds Before Fire and Smoke Before Rain. It is a book of poetry, short stories. Um, it's just sort of a book about my journey thus far. You know where I've come from thus far. I have it broken into sections, and it has love stories. It has a true story, things that I've experienced. It has um, different tributes to different people, biblical references, um, you name it, it's in there. It's just my journey. It's just, sort of a catalog of my life, some of the things I've gone through.
Okay. What inspired the book cover?
Well, there's a lady here, Lovey Reinhold Price, in Harrisburg. Well, she's actually in New York, and she's an artist. And I wanted something, of course, cultural. I wanted something reflective of what's in the book. And I sent her a couple of my poems and said, I'd just be curious to see what you come up with. And this was what she came up with. There's a cardinal in the woman's hair. A lot of people miss it. My grandmother is a major and played a major factor in my writing. And there are a lot of references to my grandmother and to cardinals. And so my grandmother always told me she'd come back. If she could come back, she'd come back as a cardinal. So the cardinal's there, and the woman's hair is her. It's a tree, sort of the tree of life, our family tree, and things like that. So there's a lot of things that sort of lend to the different things that a person reading the book would see.
Okay. How did you come up with the title?
Well, my grandmother, she always used to tell me that everything in life comes with warning signs. And she would say, before there's fire, there's always smoke, and there's always clouds before there's rain. And, I'd tell her things happen, break up with a boyfriend, and I'd call her crying. And she said, well, baby, what were the warning signs? And said, there weren't any, Grandma. There weren't no warning signs. And she said, no, everything in life comes with a warning sign. You just chose to ignore them. Mm-hmm. So she would say, there's always smoke before there's fire, and there's always clouds before there's rain. And I came up with this title because sometimes I feel like when I see smoke and I'm looking for fire in my life, it just starts raining. It just the warning signs never seem to add up, or I miss them, and so I always say, well, in my life, it's clouds before fire and smoke before rain.
Okay. How did you get started out as a poet?
I think I don't know if it was intentional. I've always loved poetry. My grandmother, once again, my grandmother, just having me to read different things. My favorite book is for colored girls who've considered suicide when the rainbow isn't enough. It's a choreo poem, but I just love the way it's written. I love the way it reads. Even as a young person, I enjoyed poetry, even the little silly poems that we remember. I like the beat, the meter of poetry, and the way it flows, and that you could, go back again and again. Some songs, I like the lyrics, and I like it in written and spoken form more than I do in the song, because I like the poetry. I like the poet factor of it. So I've always, that I can remember, written short stories, always, when I was much younger. We would, the family would be watching TV, and I would come into the living room where they were watching TV and want to turn the TV off so they could listen to my short story, be like, okay, now I'm going to entertain you.
Mhm.
And I've always, even I was, I guess, I call it that, people call it that weird kid, but I was definitely a nerd. Even I remember sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, I had one of my father's old attaché cases with papers and pens and things like that in it. And I carried that around with me. And I just would write. Other kids were doing other things, and I just kind of go off to the side and write. And they're like, what she got? What she got that bag for? Why is she carrying that case around? Was she always over there writing something? And I would write short stories and poems and different things like that. I've just, from as far as I can remember, that's just been my go-to. I've always written journals, diaries. Of course, they were diaries at first, but I've always been that way. I just don't even know when it really, started and sort of changed into something else.
Okay. How did you first get published?
I I started writing a novel. I've been, writing the poems, and I started writing a novel. And I talked to a friend, and I said, I'm really ready to publish my novel. I want to finish my novel and publish it, but I got a little bit more to go.
Mhm.
And she said, why don't you publish your poetry first? That would be quicker. It'll be easier, to publish, and then you will be able to get around and, get your book out and get your poetry out, kind of get your name out there. Then, publish the novel. And so I started publishing. You know, one of my best friends, Dawn, she has this beautiful voice, and she's always wanted to go to Broadway. So when we were younger, she was going to go to Broadway, and I was going to be a New York best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author. And then she was going to go to Broadway, and then I was going to be on Oprah's list. And so she still wants to go to Broadway, and I'm still trying. I'm still trying to be a best-selling author. So it's just been something I've always wanted to do.
Mhm. How did your poems develop, and what is the guide? What is the stage of a poem? How do you get from one to the beginning to the end?
Sometimes it's something that I'm going through. Sometimes I just got something on my mind, or I'm struggling with something, or something made me upset or hurt me, or something like that, and I just kind of start writing it. One of the things I like about poetry is it does not have to ascribe to any grammatical format. So you can put it. You can write just sentences, and they don't have to fit into a paragraph. Just write. You can do anything. And so sometimes you can just, list, a list of sentences, and then scramble them up, and there you have a poem. So a lot of mine, I just start writing whatever is on my mind. Um, my poems, some rhyme, most don't, so it doesn't always have the same iambic meter that most have. But I just start with whatever is on my mind, and I kind of go back and revisit and take out some things and change, the words until it feels right, or at least until I feel like, okay, I can let this one go. And I usually can't start a new one until I finished what I've started. I can
Mhm.
I can write other things. I can journal about other things. I can journal about my day, or anything else. But if it's something that I'm writing as poetry, and not every poem is meant to be shared. Not every one that I write gets shared. Eventually, I guess maybe they will. Maybe, someone will find them or something like that. But I just kind of start writing. And then um, with the writer's workshop, the group that I'm in, we have a writer's retreat, and we get prompts. When we're doing it, he'll give us a prompt. And so some of my poems have just come from that, or I attended a family, it's called Families First or something. It's sort of like a family uh, training or something where, the young people go to one part, the parents go to another. And the question was asked about uh, keeping secrets. There was a question asked about keeping secrets. And I think the advice that they gave was a little bit different than what we do culturally.
Mhm.
And so it bothered me that was the advice that was given, because that does not work everywhere you go.
Mhm.
And so because that frustrated me that I didn't like that answer, I wrote a poem. And then when I shared the poem to the group, it happened to be also the the facilitator of the family group, so that he knew that that's what I was talking about. So
Okay. Has the idea of poetry changed since you began writing poems?
absolutely, absolutely. I think, well, hip hop, hip hop has changed who's a poet and who's not. Hip hop has created a new love, which I love that part of it, a new love for language, for vocabulary, for skills, for writing skills. And of course, if you increase your writing skills, you have to increase your reading skills. And if you're good at it, then you're also increasing your speaking skills.
Mhm.
Because now so many people write the way they speak, or they speak the way they read, you know. So I think that this generation, and then of course, social media and being able to get your stuff out almost instantly
Mhm.
has changed poetry. And so it's no longer um, what we thought poetry was, unless, I had the advantage, and I had, the fortune of having parents that were familiar with the Harlem Renaissance, and my grandmother was into some of the classics. So I got to see some of those things. But as kids that did not see that, we thought poetry was like, um, sort of like, uh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Thus but goeth, and yea, I say. And so we were like, really? This is what,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? This is what you want me to enjoy? And so now that spoken word, and you have poetry slams, and you have, all sorts of different things, you see a lot of people that are into poetry. And I'm really, really glad to see a lot of our young people into poetry, but I'm really glad to see young African American men, because it's an opportunity for them to express themselves. We will say what's on our mind, even if it's at the wrong time. At some point, if you keep poking, you're going to get an explosion. And I'll tell you everything that's going on. But our young men have been taught to hold it in. Don't say anything. Don't show your emotions. Men, man up, man up. And so I think that for so many of them that are into poetry and are into writing, it gives them a place and a safe space to express what's on their minds. And I think we should listen.
Mhm. Okay. What is your favorite and least favorite part about the publishing journey?
Well, I'll start with the least favorite. I think my least favorite is just getting it out there,
Mhm.
being able to, especially self publishing. Gone are the days where you send queries to these big publishing houses and wait for this letter to come back. I mean, those things do still happen, but there are so many that now the chances of getting that, and because publishing is so easy, or it's easily done yourself, and you have so many of these publishing companies sprouting up all over, that even like with the novel, to get to a Harlequin, or to get to some of these bigger um, houses, publishing houses, is difficult. Then when you do get to some of the ones that you think are bigger, they're charging you as opposed to you getting royalties from them.
Mhm.
So basically, I'm paying you to publish and promote my book, and I only make dollars, off of the book, or cents off of the book, when it costs me more to publish it. So I'm not making anything out of it. I get a love for, my love for it is there. And so it's very similar to how you hear a lot of the artists when they first start off, in their management is they've got to pay all of this to all of these people. And then you wonder how their album went platinum, but they're still broke. You know, it's very similar to that.
Mhm.
My favorite part of it is they're still creativity in the process, you know, and being able to self-publish, um, just having full ownership, you know, of the whole product, and being able to say, you know, being able to say, this is what I did, you know, from cover to cover, from the ISBN number to everything, I did it. Is it moving as fast as it would, say, if one of the bigger houses that has access to some of the other places? No, you know, it's not, and I think that that's one of the hardships of self-publishing or of being a sole proprietor, and not being able to do this 100% full time. You know, I think that that's one of the downsides of it. But I love the process, and because this is my heart, you know, I've put my heart and soul into this. Um, you become very vulnerable when you have to hand it over to someone else and trust that it will mean the same to them that it means to you.
What is the most important element of a poem?
I think your soul. I think your soul, what you put into it. Um, if it's if it's a humorous poem, then is it funny? You know, if it's a love poem, does the person feel love? You know, when they read it. If it's an angry poem, did they get that? Wow, she was really angry. Like, do I feel? You know, do I feel you? Is what's intended in the poem? And you know, I can write a poem and I may intend, you know, one thing, and you may get something else out of it, but I think most important is, did you get something out of it?
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm. Would you like to share one of your poems?
Sure, sure. Hmm. Anything in particular? Any?
I got a lot of them. Um, the one, oh God, I can't even think of it. The one about the pink champagne and the summer
Okay,
revivals and the cousins sleeping over. I like that one.
okay. I think that's heirloom ties. Let's see. Heirloom. That's called heirloom tides. Heirloom tides. I've walked a million miles and crossed oceans. I've even drowned in them. I've lost my babies. My tears are the high tide. I've carried and still carry other babies on my back, carefully tying knots to secure their dreams and their future. My mind plays and replays phrases and words that I don't care to recall, or maybe I've not yet heard. My pen moves incessantly. My eyes are my ink, and my heart is the paper. I collect words, praying to unearth the perfect poem for peculiar situations. I am a motherland experience infused with fragmented cultures. I am Saturday morning hair grease and pressing comb certified. Big Mama's night musk mixed with Catawba reservation red dirt, and the sounds of a summer revival provide incense and a soundtrack for my craft. Summers in Pontiac, Michigan, and sleepovers with older cousins introduced me to pink champagne, cussing, and eyeliner, tools for some of life's most essential moments. I am macaroni and cheese and collard greens. I am cassava, suya, and fufu. I am sushi and tiramisu. I am the indispensable esoteric pull me up. A literary docent, my libretto sings the songs of my ancestors, hums the tunes of their passage, and engraves my story in the walls of a legacy built on foundations of strength and hope. My life is the braille for those whose shoulders I stand on. My existence is the sign language for the voices that were silenced and the words that were never spoken. I am humbly gifted with a burden. My pen moves incessantly, cataloging my testimonies of this life. My eyes are the tear moistened ink within a quill that never dries and never stops asking. My heart is my paper where sentiment and words hold communion and poems are born. Angels edit my experiences. God is my publisher on high. My unwritten poems are the sounds of raindrops on a tin roof falling lyrically in my thoughts and dreams. For these poems, I'll walk another million miles. It's low tide. and I labor for the birth of the poems that are happening around me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
what inspired that poem?
Um, I think just really thinking about where I come from, sort of cataloging some of the things. It's kind of funny because I realized that moving around a lot has exposed me to a lot of different things, but some things always remained the same. Those heirlooms that we get every summer. My cousins and I, and my brother and sister, we were always sent to Rock Hill for the summer with our big mama. And then when we got a little bit older, we went to Pontiac, where my other set of cousins were in Pontiac. And I'm the only girl in my age group, but I have a couple of girl cousins that are a couple years older than me. So they were already drinking pink champagne and putting on eyeliner. And one of them can just like, she cusses like poetry. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like beautiful. Like, I just can't even say all of that. So, I mean, those are some of the things that um, make me who I am. And when I think about, what heirlooms and what kind of things have been passed down to me and left to me, it's those things, it's those relationships. It's people don't, I don't know, do people still get their hair? Uh, they still do like hot combs, and people still have burn marks on the back of their ear.
I got one on the back, right here on the back of my neck.
Yeah, that's like a curling iron. But you remember, like you could always, and you could see the lines on somebody's ear.
I had
And
the straightening comb fall on my back because I was moving around and it, yeah, right. I got a scar right there on my back. Yes, I
well,
do.
see, this generation does not, or maybe some do, but they would get the blue magic and they dig their fingers in and put it on the back of their hand, and those are, that's a part of our history. That's, to me, to be passed, pass that down. It was more than them doing your hair. It was what happened when those things were going on. So as I said, I'm hair grease. I'm Saturday morning hair grease and pressing comb certified. I went through all of that.
Mhm. Are there any books or authors that inspire you to write your book?
Yes, Nozaki Shande for colored girls who've considered suicide when the rainbow isn't enough. I've always been a Maya Angelou fan. Always. Um, I love Zora Neale Hurston, uh, J. California Cooper. I love J. California Cooper, and then I like Khalil Gibran. I like Dante Alighieri, Dante's Inferno. Um, so to be honest with you, I love the way the King James version, King James Bible reads. Even the stuff I don't understand, I just love the way it reads, and to me, it reads, certain books read like poetry, and it reads like a story. And and I love that sometimes it's asking a question, sometimes it's giving an answer, sometimes it's the wildest answer to a very simple, to a very simple question. And it's just things like that that kind of get my mind going. And I love authors, like that they just kind of inspire me, and are not your typical just ABC and done. So a lot of I love a lot of the contemporary um, authors, that are out as well.
Mhm. Okay. Would you share something about yourself that readers might not know about you?
Um, that readers wouldn't know about me. I think I'm actually uh, I'm actually a shy person, and a lot of people are surprised to hear that because I don't mind the microphone, but one-on-one is difficult. I mean, not like this, not like this, but just to approach someone, to um, introduce myself to someone or something like that. That's typically not me. Um, so I'm a little bit reserved, except for in my writing, and that's why part of why I write. That's my voice. That's how I use my voice. Now, I will go someplace that, say as a consumer, I will go someplace and I'll speak up. But I really will write you a letter. I'll write you a letter. Um, and sometimes I write letters to people in relationships of things that I can't say or won't say, but I'll write you a letter. And so you could be like, I'm right here with you every day, or I see you every day. We talk on the phone every day. Why did you feel the need to write me a letter? Because I express myself better in writing. I feel safer. I feel safer in writing. And I think the shyness comes from not wanting to be rejected, or not wanting to be misunderstood, or not wanting someone to not hear me. If I write it, you can go back and read it. You can go back and read it. If you didn't understand me, just go back and read it. But if I say it, you're already thinking of your response. And so you might misunderstand me. But I know that if I write it, oh, you're going to understand.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any poets in your family, and who has been your biggest supporter?
Well, I do have a poet in my family. My son, Taft, is a poet. And you know how they say iron sharpens iron. And it's really amazing because he's only 15, but he's good. He's really good. And sometimes when he reads stuff, I'm just blown away. And I don't know if I'm like, maybe I wasn't on my A game at 15, or if I've got to do better, or something like that. But we share and we read to each other. And, he blows me away sometimes with the things that um, he says and in some of his poetry. And sometimes I feel like I need to I need to seek therapy afterwards, because it just sort of blows my mind at the things that, a 15-year-old might be thinking or going through, or think he's going through, at this point. As far as supporter, my mom has always been, um, my mom has always been a big supporter of any of my endeavors. And it's funny because she last night reminded me, I think I was in kindergarten and it was nap time. And I didn't want to take a nap anymore. And I said, well, will the class please all rise? And I remember the teacher being so upset and calling my parents, into school. And so my mother said last night, she said, we knew, we didn't know, to what extent, but we knew that you would always do something, that you would do something. We didn't know if you were going to be an actor or what, a lawyer, because my dad used to say that I should be a lawyer, but I think that had to do with my mouth, not so much the creative part. But she's always said that, and she's always been supportive.
Mhm. What has been the greatest accomplishment thus far as our author?
My greatest accomplishment, I think, publishing my book.
Mhm.
But I have been so blessed to be able to share, with people. I think just reaching out to people. I've had an experience where I have a poem. It's called Deadbeatedness, and um, it's about being a single mom, a single mother raising a son, and a father that is not a part of, being, the father not being a part of the son's life. So it's about uh, a deadbeat father as a disease. So it's deadbeatedness. And afterwards, a man came to me in tears, and he said that he had not been in touch with his daughter, and he had not had a relationship with his daughter, and he never imagined that the mother might be feeling this way. But after hearing my poem, he wondered how my child felt, you know and
Mhm.
how that affected my child. And so he said, I'm going to call my daughter. He said, after hearing that, I'm going to call my daughter. So anytime someone says that they were touched or moved, or, anything by any of my poetry, if it made them laugh, if it made them think about something, or anything like that, to me, um, that's a major accomplishment. I've enjoyed all of the places that I've been able to go and speak. I've enjoyed seeing my book, in places, or, a friend that's in London ordered my book. And so it's in London. I have a friend in Afghanistan, and he asked me to send him a copy. So, of course, I think that makes me international.
Yes.
So, just seeing pictures of my book in Afghanistan, in London, and in Nigeria. Um, those are things that, you just kind of dream of. All of those things are wonderful, but I just think touching people and connecting with people and being able to share my story, and hopefully what's been cathartic and healing for me, if it's done that for someone else, then that would be the purpose.
Okay. What are you working on right now?
I am working on I'm working on a novel that I've been working on for, I don't even want to say, but for years and years. It's called The Tempest is Raging. The prologue to it is in at the end of my book of Clouds Before Fire and Smoke Before Rain. So I'm finishing up getting it to the editor and getting that ready to be published. I am writing poetry in between because, life keeps happening. And so, but again, before I can start that project, I have to finish this one. It won't even let me come close to starting it. I did just, we had an anthology just come out called Our Words, Our Voices. It's an anthology with Nathaniel Gadsden's Writer's Workshop. And so that just came out. And I think there's maybe 10 or 15 artists in that. And so my son is one of them, myself and my son. So I'm still writing, but my next project and my next big thing to come out is The Tempest is Raging, and it's a fiction novel.
Okay. Where can readers find you and your books?
They can find me on Amazon. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all under Winde Nnochirionye. My website is down right now. Just, I guess my website, the company that houses it, I guess they left for COVID or something all of a sudden. So, but it is www.iamyams.com. That should be up hopefully any day now. And they can reach me on Facebook.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
Just that, I enjoy the process of writing. I enjoy the process of sharing. And I sincerely hope that in my, like I said, in my healing process, because it is healing for me, and in my sharing process, it's always my intention to touch other people. Sometimes I write because I write what I feel. So I have a poem where I say, this does not reflect the opinions of, the establishment or this or that, but it's sometimes just to get us thinking. And in this process, and especially with these times right now, for anyone that's going through something, maybe consider writing, consider sitting down and putting your thoughts on paper. It doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be eloquent words. It just has to be your own. It has to be your own. And then consider sharing. You don't have to share it on a broad scheme of things, but call someone that you trust and share. We're going through so much right now. I just think it's important that we reach out to each other, take care of each other, but take care of ourselves. Self-care is so important in these days and times. And if for anyone that's looking for a way to do that, you don't have to go to substances, you don't have to go to food, you don't have to go to unhealthy or unsafe situations. You can just write and it feels good. And then, when you're tired, put it down, close the book, and then you can deal with it later because it's there. It's there. So you truly can put it down. You can write it down, close it and put it away, go back to it later and revisit it when you're in a better space and in a better place. So I just wish happy writing to anybody that's going through anything. It really works.
Well, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate you. Thank you for all you do.
And share your book one more time, please.
Clouds Before Fire and Smoke Before Rain.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.